Bickley and Marotta Mornings. Arizona Sports. The local sports leader. Bickley Blast.
The Paris Olympics begin at the end of the week, and already the United States has a basketball problem, as in neither of our two national teams seem all that likable at the moment. The men's team needed late heroics to beat South Sudan over the weekend, a game in which they were favored by over 40 points. They have looked good in only one of their friendlies, and from LeBron James lobbying to be flag bearer to KD wondering why he is not in the official Nike Olympic commercial, I'm a bit worried about this team's collective focus, especially in a host city like Paris. And so far, they look like a previous generation of Olympic teams, the ones who felt like the Summer Games were a coronation and not a competition. Meanwhile, the women's national team already looked bad before Saturday's WNBA All-Star game for the absurd decision to leave Caitlin Clark at home, even though she's the most popular player in the game, generating revenue never before seen in the W. But when Arike Ogunbowale lit up the Olympians on Sunday and then admitted that she took her name out of Olympic consideration because Team USA is too political, because Team USA doesn't seem to like her, well, that is a really bad look. And if you ask me, it appears that both of our Olympic teams are a little too focused on personal agendas and victory laps and not focused enough on what really matters, namely those three letters on the front of the jersey. All right, today's Bickley Blast brought to you by my great friends at Chapman BMW, who make luxury attainable. Find them online at chapmanbmw.com.
The gap has closed. Nigeria beat us in a friendly in 21 in Las Vegas. So this is, it's not a shock to see a team, from South Sudan play really well and knock down threes. The game has gotten better across the globe.
That is Steve Kerr, the head coach of Team USA, after a 1-point victory over South Sudan.
Right.
The incredulous nature of your voice was really evident in the blast.
Again, I was watching I was incredulous that the game was that close. Yeah. And then for Team USA to be down, I got the alert on social media that they were down by 15 or whatever it was.
That's exactly what happened to me. I was like, I better turn this on.
I better check this out. And it's, I guess you give them credit for pulling out the game, but it's a bad look. And then you compound it with the WNBA All-Stars beating the Olympic team, and it's like, okay, what's going on here? And I would say in a larger degree, there's a lot of people who look at these Paris Olympics and say, this is a watershed year for the Olympics because they seem to have lost their mojo. They seem to have lost their way. They don't seem to mean what they once did in this country. Whether you believe that or not, I will say this. This Team USA, this delegate of Olympians, there's not the kind of great star power of really likable figures that we've seen in the past. Katie Ledecky is still swimming, but she's vulnerable. She's not the dominant force she once was. Simone Biles is the greatest of all time, but she's also very polarizing. There were a lot of people who didn't dig what happened last time around, right?
When she tapped out.
Exactly. And then there's these basketball teams that not the greatest vibage so far. Now, again, these are just friendlies. They don't mean anything. But if you're looking, who are big track stars in Paris?
Sha'Carri Richardson.
Yeah. Noah Lyles, is that it? This is not the Carl Lewis, Michael Johnson, the Michael Phelps.
No.
This is not shaping up to me to be that kind of Olympiad. But again, the whole thing has changed. It's like there used to be a time when we'd sit around and go, I hope Team USA wins the medal count.
Yeah.
Nobody cares about that stuff anymore.
I will say this, though, in the non-basketball sports, like track and field swimming, the 2 weeks of the Olympics goes to almost educate the majority of the audience. And I'm not going to sit here and say a lot of people watch the track and field, trials and the swimming trials and all of those things because they're Olympic sports fans. But most of the Olympic audience tunes in because it's the Olympics.
Yeah.
They could not care less what happens in those sports the rest of the year. So those names whether it's American athletes or athletes from other countries, those names will come to the forefront over the 2 weeks.
Okay, I hope you're right.
But I like to focus on the basketball thing because I touched on this last week.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I want the country that I live in to do well in the Olympics because that's what bonds us as fellow Americans.
Mm-hmm.
But it's really difficult when you have NBA players, populating these rosters now because all of these guys I root against basically for most of the year. LeBron James has been a thorn in my side for 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
Steph Curry for about 13 years. Anthony Edwards for about the last 2 years. And now you're like, okay, let's let bygones be bygones, and I'm going to root for these guys. I obviously want them to do well.
I don't have listen, as a basketball fan, I love watching. I love Steph Curry. I love Anthony Edwards. I do not have these issues that you do with people who compete against the Suns, but I do have an issue with LeBron.
Do you remember? You obviously remember the '92, the Dream Team.
Mm-hmm.
The label "Ugly Americans" got thrown around a lot. The U.S. first game, they took on Angola,
mm-hmm.
and Charles Barkley set a tone in that game for the rest of the world when he elbowed an Angolan player right in the chest.
Uh-huh.
I don't know how that guy didn't die because he wasn't exactly sturdily built.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what followed. That team was, wow, this team's unlikable. They're just dominating. They're toying with everybody. It turned out to be one of the greatest basketball teams ever assembled. Steve Kerr is right. The gap is lessening. But I will say this. This version of the U.S. Olympic team, there's been some very high-profile failures in Olympic teams past. The 72 games, there was controversy around it. They got screwed.
Mm-hmm.
The 88 Olympics, that team coached by John Thompson, was such a disappointment. It spurred USA basketball to use professionals.
Mm-hmm.
The 2004 team fell short in a quest for a gold medal.
Got blown out by Puerto Rico.
Yes, and I will go as far to say this. If the U.S. men's Olympic basketball team does not win gold, I think this would go down as the greatest Olympic basketball failure in this country's history.
Oh, really?
Yes. Because the level, the world is lessening the gap, but the difference in talent level on this roster and every other, Canada's got the second best roster. And it's night and day. No.
You're right, but that 04 team, the talent had not caught up as much 20 years ago around the world as it had now. To me, that feels like, I don't know. You're right. With the comparisons to the original Dream Team, maybe you're right that this would be the most disappointing.
I believe that. Now, I don't think it's going to come to fruition. I think this team, with Steve Kerr as the coach and with a lot of experienced Olympians, are going to buckle down and they're going to get the job done.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying the potential is there.
South Sudan, Vinny. Not two-door sedan, South Sudan.
Man, I'm looking at the roster from that 88 team. Willie Anderson, Stacey Augmon, Bimbo Coles, Jeff Grayer, Hersey Hawkins, Dan Marley, Danny Manning, J.R. Reed, Mitch Richmond, David Robinson, and two different Charles Smiths, one from Pittsburgh and one from Georgetown.
Wow.
And I remember, actually, this was before my burning hatred for the University of Arizona had kicked in. The fact that Sean Elliott was not on that team rubbed a lot of people in Arizona the wrong way.
That's why they lost. Would have never had the Dream Team if you would have played.
Thanks for watching Bickley and Marotta. Click to see the latest Bickley Blast and hit the button in the middle to subscribe to Arizona Sports.